Welcome to the Work Sucks, But I Like It podcast. Today, I want to explore the industrial athlete. We see all the time on ESPN the top 10 highlights from baseball, soccer, and golf, but what about everyone that had to go professional in something other than sports? Where do we highlight these achievements and successes? Hello, my name is Tony Tenaglier, and I want to talk about where success is made visible in the workplace today, just like how ESPN does it with sports. Because if we're being honest with ourselves, it really isn't. Over the 14 years I've been in manufacturing, every meeting sounds about the same. What's your goal? Did we hit it? Okay, great, moving on. Or, what's your goal? Did we hit it? No. What the hell happened? Why didn't we? We need to reassess what went wrong. What can we do next time to improve? Who's to blame? Can we salvage any of the parts we made? The point is this. Our conversations about what we do wrong seem to amount to more dialogue than those of when we do something right, as opposed to ESPN, where the highlight reel is played over and over again to demonstrate how the athlete performed the winning shot to win the game. It doesn't show the 8 other shots that didn't go in. It shows the one shot that made the difference. So why do corporations not follow the way we idolize athletes? The personnel at a company is just as important as the players that make up the sports team. Without them, you couldn't play the game. So today, I want to explore how LinkedIn could be that possible ESPN for the modern-day industrial athlete. Because I think we can, and I think we're already seeing it. What ESPN gets right. ESPN gets it right. A one-stop destination for all your sports news and updates. From trades prior to the season, minute-to-minute live updates during the games, and post-game interviews. It covers everything from how athletes train to get to the big stage. It keeps track of their scores, on how individuals or teams do. It includes interviews of these players and even experts and even Monday quarterbacks to participate in the discussion. It's exciting to see top athletes do amazing things. Holes in ones for golf, crazy free kicks in soccer to score a goal, awesome slam dunks through the defense in basketball, hockey players finding that little opening to sneak the puck in for a goal. In general, it shows that athletes want to win. It highlights how hard they practice through their interviews. It zooms in on the players' faces of them sweating and expressing all the emotions of frustration, sadness, and even joy. It shows them trying hard in the game, putting in that extra little effort to sneak through the defense and get a shot off on goal. ESPN highlights how athletes want to get in the game. Athletes don't like sitting on the bench watching a game. They want to be in it. They want to be a part of it. I have seen some players even kick their chairs in frustration for being pulled out, knowing they aren't performing well and wanting another chance to prove they can do it. The athletes train to be in the game. They don't train and practice to sit on the bench. They know that playing the game, you have to get involved, not be a spectator. They get frustrated when they're injured, knowing they will miss out on valuable playing time, their time to shine. They want to play the game. ESPN provides entertainment, inspiration, and even hope. Sports show us the potential of human beings on this planet. They show us the skills and strength that people can develop. It's truly inspiring. Having grown up playing competitive soccer and golf myself, I recognize when I see highlight reels and scores being posted that it's tough. It's hard to take a golf ball and hit it into a hole hundreds of yards away. Factor in the wind, the rain, the water hazards, and even the crowd. It can be very challenging. It's hard to take a soccer ball and pass it in such a way as to navigate humans that have trained and conditioned their bodies to perform at peak states. It's where the best of the best go and play the game they love, the big stage. It's televised, and mistakes and highlights are magnified. So it was always inspiring to see growing up Tiger Woods winning a golf tournament or even Mia Hamm scoring a soccer goal. Because when I stepped onto the playing field back at home, I wanted to try my best just like them. They were my heroes growing up. They made it look so easy. If they could do it, I wanted to try and do it like them. But even the aspect of sports, though, has an element of entertainment. Fans cheering their favorite teams on in the stadium, wearing the fan t-shirts and wanting the autographs of the players after the game. They were celebrities. There's so much hype around the athlete. We look up to them in the commercials as they tell us to get this car or eat this cereal. We're excited to hear of their stories of getting married, the families they have, and sometimes the breakups. I went to UConn, University of Connecticut, for my material science engineering degree, and the reason why I chose UConn, was because of their sports. I didn't play on any of their sports teams, but it was amazing to be a part of such a culture that loves the work and play of the game. UConn basketball every year, making it on ESPN during March Madness, the time when all the NCAA schools dream of dancing and playing in the tournament. Time to prove who was the best across the entire country. I've waited for hours outside of games waiting to get in before they start. I've spent hundreds of dollars, as a student would say that's a lot, to get into the games. As a fan, I couldn't help get all charged up and excited, yelling at the referees, even though they aren't the ones making the plays, yelling at the other team, but really expressing my overall enjoyment of the game. ESPN highlights the world of sports, but not everyone was born to be a professional athlete. We have our day jobs, as they say. And even though we might play some of these sports as hobbies in our spare time or with our kids, or even find ourselves as referees making a little extra money on the weekends, we can all appreciate the achievements and abilities of the athletes we see on ESPN. I can't draw a direct correlation with my academic studies when I was there with UConn Athletics, but I will admit the athletes there inspired me throughout my time there to do my best in the classroom, and even when I played intramural sports. But all of this leads to an important question I think we all want to answer. What about the industrial athlete? The worker that shows up every day to play a different kind of game. It still has a start and end. It sometimes even has a halftime. Some call this lunch. It has goals, and there's a point system. Some call these key process indicators, cash flow, and even your paychecks. The coaches might even be called different things, but the managers are no different than offensive and defensive coordinators making the play calls on the floor for where to direct the team. ESPN captures all aspects of the life of an athlete, the good and the bad. The golfers slamming their clubs down into the ground after an errant tee shot, basketball players trash-talking their opponents during a play, soccer players using profanity towards other players, yelling at the refs, diving, whatever. Employees have shit days too, though. But there's a big difference with what gets focused on at work when we compare sports and the corporations that do a different kind of work. We focus on the 10% wrong instead of the 90% of what we did well. Baseball has always been well known for its tracking of player stats, like batting average and home runs. Looking at batting average, though, you would think that a .250 is bad. That means 1 out of every 4 times they get up to the plate, they hit the ball. In the corporate world, that would be terrible for products moving on a production line. 1 out of every 4 parts is good? If corporate were to look at running a baseball team around these stats as a business and determine its efficiency, well, let's just say it wouldn't meet the standards of Six Sigma today. Yet the baseball players that get these sorts of numbers are considered okay and typically doing a good job. But this is where sports makes a critical distinction with the workplace. Sports views typically what is done right, what the athlete does well. The workplace meetings, well, you've probably experienced it yourself if you've been fortunate to attend any business meetings on goals. When a team is meeting them, it's glossed over as if assumed that is the way it should have been all along. If the goal isn't being met at the company, well, that's where we start to see the yelling, blaming, and excuses coming out. The focus is always on that last 10% of what is needed to be perfect, which is okay, obviously. There's always room for improvement. But that is like telling a baseball player to improve their batting average another 75% to be able to stand at the plate each time and hit the ball. They know they want to hit the ball every time. That's a given. Instead, what athletes do is practice and train to put themselves into a position to hit the ball as best they can when they stand up to the plate. The distinction is subtle, but critical for the workplace. The sports athletes see standing at the plate an opportunity to do their best. They have put in processes to get physically in shape, improve their hand-eye coordination, and so on, to hit the ball when the pitcher throws it. They don't rely heavily on the outcomes. Of course, they want to hit the ball. That's the object of the game. But they focus more on the process. How can the athlete be successful each and every time they step up to the bat? Why is this important? Because it focuses on their strengths and what to continue to work on. Using the feedback of a low batting average should suggest that they need to train differently or work on other aspects of their technique. Because what do you see when you watch ESPN? We don't see all the misses. We see the home run. We see those glimpses of what I call human perfection of them hitting the ball, all the stars aligning. Athletes do a tremendous job at staying positive despite the negativity all around. In competitive golf, I remember being taught to have a terrible short-term memory. That is because if I hit the golf ball into the water, all I could do was focus on my next shot and make it the best I could. Imagine if corporations would take this view. Instead of beating upon the workers that they need to improve this 10% to get to 100, imagine managers coming out and said, "We're doing this well. Let's keep doing this, but find opportunities to keep improving." Managers say they do this, but to be honest with you, I don't see it half the time. Again, it's a subtle distinction, but critical as I have found managing teams and processes myself. Why? Because people don't want to be criticized all the time for the stuff they get wrong. They want praise for the things they sometimes do right, and beyond the paycheck they get for the work they do. It would be interesting to take trophies and MVP awards out of sports and just gave them money as their reward. I wonder how the game would be then, if there were no other measures for demonstrating excellence. Praise must go beyond a green checkmark to the team. In a psychology course years back, I came across what was called the Lasada ratio. In essence, it was a study to attempt to determine a workplace culture based upon the positive and negative interactions being made throughout a given workday. There has been criticism as to the actual numbers for this ratio, but the message is simple to me. Forget if it's 3 or 7 or whatever, how many good to bad interactions you have. Don't workplace cultures want a degree of being positive in general? So who cares what the number is? So of course there should be more positives than negatives in a given day. Sometimes science is great, but other times my engineer mind steps in and sees the practical value of something. So forget the specific number, think more positive than negative. Why is this important for corporations? I think of it like reinforcing behaviors. In sports, it's clear what behaviors and actions athletes and teams want. The baseball player wants to hit the baseball. These actions lead to winning the game, of course. Well, athletes get feedback all the time whether or not their actions and behaviors are in line towards winning ways. Their coaches telling them they had a good practice, the fans cheering or even booing them on, the feeling of scoring the winning touchdown. The list goes on with positives and even negatives. And even when the team loses, most athletes will look at the positives, saying they will work harder in practice, that they gave it their all and will try again in the next game or next season. But where's the list for the industrial athlete of all the positives? Companies want to win and have their team be doing the right behaviors, but how effective is their feedback? In my experiences, pretty crappy overall. There was actually one time where someone made a comment to me that I seemed to be the only one who congratulated the team after corrective action was closed. This surprised me, as all the hard work we did as a team to correct the problem, why wouldn't I notify the team of all that hard work and that we passed? Also, what is crazy is that in most corrective action programs in the aerospace industry, where I work in, the last step is to congratulate the team. So do supervisors actually give feedback to their team saying they did a good job? What if they did more often and sincerely and genuinely? What if the team overall at a company gives more positive feedback in meetings, interactions at the coffee machine, and on the floor? I'm saying when it's earned, of course. We aren't talking about flattery. Another important clarification to make. No one wants to hear how good they are when they already think that of themselves. It's insincere praise. We're looking for sincere and genuine praise. Ways I've done this when money is tight. It's as simple as taking team photos to celebrate and share in the company news or on your LinkedIn when we've passed audits, especially when upper management doesn't approve my request for lunch special or something. So you can get creative in how you celebrate and give positive feedback, create more positive interactions. I've even created certificates to give to employees for achieving certain levels within the organization. It makes me smile when I walk into their departments and they're proudly displaying their achievements on the wall. But to give sincere feedback, you have to be on the shop floor. You have to be where the action is taking place. How can you give feedback if you aren't even in the room? That is like a Monday quarterback. Say all you want, but you weren't even playing the game. Now, my brother jokes that when I have my process engineering hat on, as I say, I'm often viewed as simply standing and watching people do their work, and not just in some creepy way, not just doing nothing and observing, when in fact both him and I know that I'm really digesting everything in, the entire work environment and all the elements, observing the behaviors, how the equipment is running, how the paperwork is being completed, how the team interacts with one another. It isn't just simply adding up how many parts are being made. That's what upper management wants to know. So when I am observing a process, I'll notice that sometimes when I give praise, it's going to depend on a lot of different factors. One of them being people varying from generation to generation. And in an article I wrote in April 2025 for the Thermal Processing magazine for the heat treat aerospace industry, I indicated the differences of potentially working with other employees older and younger than me, that there are generational differences, how millennials like myself prefer a coaching style than someone who is older than me, how older generations like things to be a little more formal, while sometimes younger generations, when they're coming in, like things a little less formal. The point is, some like formal feedback though, like in the annual performance reviews. Maybe some like every day to see where they're at. Think of the athlete. Imagine the athlete got their review at the end of the season on what to change, that their stats weren't entirely shown to them until all the games were played. How would they know what to improve? That is no different than the industrial athlete today. We can't give feedback once a year. It needs to happen more regularly, and it needs to be more positive in nature. LinkedIn as ESPN. So here we go. LinkedIn, by definition per Google, is a platform dedicated to professional networking and career development. ESPN, by definition, entertainment and sports programming network. So different definitions and intentions, but I still view the outcomes as similar in nature. Because when you go online to LinkedIn, what do you typically see? People are posting about themselves, graduating and earning degrees. Maybe some are earning certificates for certain licenses they recently obtained, completing courses for continuing education credits. Some have passed audits. Others have installed new factories or pieces of equipment. Some are hiring. All things they themselves believe to be achievements, things worthy of recognition, things worth celebrating. And this is all amazing stuff. Well, let's go to ESPN. What do you typically see? People posting about earning trophies and winning games. Some have earned an MVP award. Some explain in interviews their happiness in completing the race. Some have passed drug test audits. Some haven't either. Others have installed new stadiums or practice facilities and equipment for players to train and play. There are even feeds now of people giving their own perspectives on recent trades and games, similar to a social media post. Both sites highlight human achievement in the end. That's the point. But work is not viewed as play in the corporate setting. ESPN highlights both the hard work and play of the athletes. LinkedIn occasionally highlights play as equating to vacations and taking trips to the island somewhere. To be honest, it's frustrating to me today why corporations overlook their greatest assets, their employees. How is it with sports teams we recognize all the players, but how many of us can really name the coaches and owners and so on? We mostly know the players, but in organizations, we mostly talk about the managers and the owners. And let's face it, if you ask the manager today, how many of them actually know the employees' first names? All are important. All are needed. But what about the discussions around the industrial athletes, the ones actually doing the work? So I'm a quality manager at an aerospace manufacturing company. We do what is called investment casting and making parts that go into the airplanes you fly in all over the world. We're a small company, a small team if you will, in Londonderry, New Hampshire. Meanwhile, we have to really know how to work together. My team today is comprised of around 6 people that directly report to me, and every day my emphasis to them is that we work together as a team. I try to be on the floor with them. I even try to celebrate their successes with them. We had an operator recently we hired about a year ago. This operator was struggling with what to do with their career, bouncing from job to job, getting fired at the last job. This operator came here because the work sounded interesting. I remember in the interview this person saying to me that they had no experience relative to this position. Because of the nature of this position, I said I didn't care about that. I care more about the attitude and motivation you have towards learning the work and how you show up each day. Fortunately, that resonated with this person and hired on. I think one of the reasons why people sometimes hate the work they do is that they think they need to somehow have this magical answer of someone or themselves telling them what they need to do. I want to be an aerospace engineer. I want to be an astronaut or whatever. I want to be an athlete. For some, we can do that. I had no idea what material science engineering was myself, and only applied because it saved me tuition costs in college and I love sports at UConn. I ended up loving it though, and still practice material science engineering today. So this person started in a department called inspection. This person did a great job, but one day an opportunity came up. Now remember, this person knew nothing about what investment casting was for aerospace and knew nothing beyond the department this person was working in currently. But a position opened up in another department in what is called non-destructive testing, or NDT for short. We had decided the company needed another backup in this NDT department, so we presented this opportunity to this person. With great enthusiasm, this person signed on and we got to work. One of the things I have seen to be the biggest struggle in organizations today is that great projects can get off the ground, but they never stay lifted to go anywhere and get to their desired destination. Training in-house is always assumed, but from every company I have seemed to work at over the years, they always struggle with the same thing: the lack of prioritizing the need to train someone. This is because sometimes the bigger picture isn't being viewed. The bigger picture, as in short-term losses in production of training, leads to this person being fully qualified and running on their own long-term. Too often do I see companies stressing about the daily grind without seeing the bigger game to play. So I made it a point that we prioritize this person's training in the new department, each week checking in with the team to make sure this person was on track to get the hours and pass the right exams to get the certification. I had to manage conversations on the side with why production might have been slower that day or why I had to move resources from here to there. But in the end, those are part of what a manager should be doing, just like a coach in a game. Especially as I am a manager, I want to see all my team members flourish. And this doesn't mean they need to go to another department or climb the corporate ladder. It's even rare in the sports world that athletes go from one sport to the next. I can only think of the basketball legend Michael Jordan, who had a short-term baseball stint. I still remember the day this person passed their final exam to become that level 2 certified in NDT. I signed the certificate after receiving the scores and all the training and whatnot, and remember walking out there to see how proud this person was of this achievement. The months of dedication to learning, the sacrifices we made in the department and elsewhere, it reminded me like an Olympian winning a gold medal standing on the podium. Here we were highlighting this person's success as I presented the certificate of completion to this person. It still hangs in the department today. I also posted it on my LinkedIn to celebrate the success of this employee and the company in achieving this. Being on LinkedIn. To summarize all this, my thoughts are simple. LinkedIn is a platform just like ESPN to illustrate the wins of the industrial athletes of today. I get excited to see people whom I've worked with achieve new positions or pass exams or audits. I get excited when I read about cool projects people are working on and the successes and even failures they are encountering. I applaud those that retire, but think of the athlete that never wants to retire, the athlete that wants to play the game as best and as long as they can. But in the end, I get it. Our bodies and minds age and we move to new chapters in life. But for now, I like playing the game of work. I like the excitement and thrills of each day, the sport of making castings, and more importantly, illustrating the team's highlights on platforms like LinkedIn. In fact, I enjoy just work that is meaningful regardless of what it is. So imagine if we could celebrate more wins in the actual workplace. But I've seen it before though, the reviews and posts of a company looking great, but it doesn't always reflect what is going on there. I've also seen that places are great, and they don't get reviews because no one takes the time to make a post and share the success stories. It's tough though because sometimes companies do not allow phones, or because of what the company makes or services they provide, cannot share this information so freely to the public. I can't always take pictures within the place I work because of government restrictions. But over the years, this is where I've gotten creative. I gave a talk once to a group of welders in Ohio on the aspects of heat treat for them to be aware of. I remember the talk containing some information that the company didn't want necessarily shared to the general public outside of this local group of welders. So I asked for a photo of the chairperson of the local group and myself in front of my title slide. It took seconds to capture, but captured the importance of wins that aren't always seen in the workplace, highlighting the times workers step on the stage of working and playing to their skills. I've taken photos of workers on projects and highlighted that in meetings. I've even gone out and played golf with the employees that helped create a new department from nothing and passed our first audit. Since we couldn't take a picture of that process in the parts, I took a picture of us on the golf course to illustrate it's a team effort. We have even taken pictures after audits in the front of the lobby with our certificate in hand. It reminds me of soccer teams winning Champions League, standing with their trophy and smiling knowing they've achieved something big. LinkedIn is the fan base to the industrial athletes of today. They are the ones liking and applauding for all the accomplishments of those playing the game we call work. So as you can see, LinkedIn requires reporters just like ESPN. Athletes are focused on the game, coaches on coaching the game. Reporters come in and interview and highlight their achievements and successes. For those on LinkedIn, I encourage you to be like a reporter, when of course allowed, or get creative like I have over the years. Report some good news. Because let's face it, there's so much crap out there today, and it's no surprise to me that people are negative and depressed. They feed their minds every day with news that is negative and depressing. Flooding here, shooting there. Yeah, these are bad things, and I'm not saying ignore them. What I'm saying, though, is also interject some more positive news. Again, that Losada ratio, positive to negative. We want to provide hope to the industrial athlete that work is meaningful when we're working for something bigger than ourselves, or working with a team that can do things an individual might not otherwise be able to do on their own. And remember that success is not a matter of good luck, but good skills. So the skill today is to think about how you use your LinkedIn. How do you report your successes? Do you share in the celebration of others' success as well? Do you see LinkedIn like your ESPN highlight reel for the awesome work you do? If we can do that as a team, I guarantee work will turn more into play for the modern-day industrial athlete. Thanks for listening to the show. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you.